Tech Three Friends, brought to you by Rug Radio. I sit in these discords for years, and this person can attest to this. I am like with projects, lurking in the town halls and the spaces, learning and learning and learning. And once they get to a great point, I get excited and I want to talk to them. And Jackal Protocol is definitely one of those. They are currently developing a lot of really interesting tools for us builders, developers, early stage, those who are interested in the space, artists, looking to try and leverage this technology for use in the space. And they're getting it to that really great point. And I want to get into it with Patrick Dunlop, CEO and founder of Jackal Protocol. Welcome,
Hey,
Patrick.
how are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Again, you guys are busy right now. You guys are so busy. You guys are, you're taking down like the big guys here. You take AWS, Google, Microsoft. It's a huge segment. Cloud storage. I guess what is it that you guys hoped to achieve when you guys were starting and looking at this huge market share?
That's a good question. So when we were starting, like we worked digital forensics and investigations before, and we
I
needed a
don't want I
place.
don't want that to pass.
Yeah,
Digital forensics.
yeah. That's we worked for lawyers on the civil side for a lot of cases, sometimes on the criminal side, where we would scrape the web and work in clean forensic environments. So kind of what we're looking to do is like build a place in a cloud where there are no backdoors or third parties had access to the cloud environment. We were doing a lot of velocity attack investigations and trying to get recovery for either the development teams that made dexes or the communities that tried to put together a class action. And we kind of got into crypto that way. And what we're looking to build is a clean forensic environment in a cloud. When you work in kind of forensics or OSINT or whatever it might be, you do everything offline primarily because a third party can't have access and the cloud is just someone else's computer.
Hmm.
So there's not a lot of SaaS apps. So we're trying to build a SaaS app for that. For us to do that, we needed a way where we can have chain of custody of evidence and make sure that only the end user could access the evidence and make sure there's no backdoors or anything like that. So we thought blockchains are cool. They're kind of like magic spreadsheets that are never wrong. They're great for who has what tokens, who has what stuff, who has what NFTs. But it's also works interesting well as a data permission system of who has access to what files at what time. So that was kind of our intro to this, and we tried to build it on a bunch of different tech stacks. We tried Filecoin. They're great guys over there, but it didn't work for what we were trying to do. We tried Arweave, Saya, storage, pretty much everything, but there was no actual on-chain data permissions of who has access to the data and self-custody of data and things along those lines. So we ended up building our own L1 after a lot of iterations. We're on version 4 right now. It takes some time, but we're in a special spot finally.
Coming out of Cosmos, I think that needs to be said too.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily like you're in this ecosystem. That ecosystem, for those who don't know, who missed the Akash show, are they're L1s, and I think that you're speaking about a system that goes and applies to all blockchains,
Yeah.
Ethereum, etc. How hard is that? Do you have to tailor to each specific blockchain?
Yeah, it's a question of distribution, right? And let's kind of first principles, such a VC term to say, but from first principles, we want to think about, okay, how does the economics and how does actually acquiring developers work in this space, right? There's 26,000 developers in crypto right now. If you want to sell to them, you have to usually in a zero-sum game pull them from another ecosystem.
Yep.
When you're building web scale applications and you want to build big stuff, you need compute and you need storage. Often you get the compute from the blockchain validators directly, but from storage, blockchains aren't good at storing things. They can only fit like a few 100 kilobytes into a block. So you use off-chain storage for a lot of stuff. So that's kind of not Web3 first. You can't do smart contract calls to it. You can't do all that stuff. And all the monolithic storage L1s that are like the proof of work blockchains, they were built kind of like 2018-ish time. For you to use them, you have to leave your ecosystem and go build on top of that L1. So now you're in the zero-sum game. So we're thinking it would be
That
better
might
to
require just learning like a whole new, programming
sometimes
system.
different
I think this is
programming
the big
languages.
lift of
Yeah.
an archaic proof of work being
Exactly.
minors and all these sort of things versus
Exactly.
something that is a bit more sophisticated and modern.
So the question becomes is like, okay, is it possible where we can just deliver something as simple and low level as stack of storage to every single chain, right? So we take our blockchain's modules. These are kind of like little things that the blockchain does, wrap them into a smart contract, and then deploy them on other chains. So if we deploy them on EVM chains, you have to write that contract in Solidity. If you want to deploy on Solana, you have to write that contract in Rust. And if you want to do like Sui or Aptos, it's going to be Move. So essentially, we're doing EVM first. So we're going to be deploying on Base before the end of the quarter. And essentially, what we do there is we deploy the smart contract, and then there's a message bridge that sends messages back to Jackal to take actions on behalf of that users. So we don't have to fight with the L1s for developers anymore. We have the ability to just deliver that good decentralized on-chain access programmable storage to where they are, and they can use that technology without us actually having them to leave base and build on Jackal. Jackal is not a good place to build anything other than storage applications. So it'd be a lot better if they could keep their liquidity, keep their community, keep all that good stuff, and get all the power of the Jackal protocol locally.
I mean, as the product is maturing, from where you guys started, I mean, I've noticed that Jackal's onboarding a lot of NFT projects. I
Hmm.
guess what's the product market fit there?
Yeah, NFT projects are interesting, right? So NFT projects, when you make an NFT, you don't actually store the image on chain. You store a IPFS CID or a link to the image that's somewhere else. Question is, where's that image, right? Often it's on like a centralized pinning service that uses like an AWS server and then uses IPFS for discovery.
A centralized AWS server, mind you.
Yeah, yeah, it's centralized. It depends on the value prop of what they want, but the question becomes is like, okay, in the last bear market, when projects die, you'll have a lot of tokens in your wallet that like just don't have images associated with them anymore, which is kind of crazy. So you have this token that points to an asset that doesn't exist anymore because they stopped paying their bill to store that file. So the question becomes like, okay, is it possible to provide a product to these guys and just like store all the JPEGs on Jackal? And that was primarily like the best product market fit we have right now in NFT space is just go
Mind
into
you,
the
that blew my
projects.
mind too. The idea that, I was early on this project and so I like started, getting some storage for like a month. But the
Hmm.
idea of going perpetual, like permanent,
Yeah.
how is that even possible?
Yeah. So in the chain directly, you can go to the chain, you say, okay, I want to store for a month, or you can store for 200 years. You can store for trillions of years if you want. And it takes those tokens that cost for the cost of the storage plan, and then it drip feeds it out towards the storage providers. And the storage providers host it, and then they prove that they have access to that file to our validators. So our validators are kind of like the police of our storage network, and then the storage providers are kind of like the workers of the storage network. And that's kind of how that system works: is drip fed throughout. And in the event that one storage provider drops the file or unplugs, then the validators will realize they'll break that storage deal, make a new one with a new provider, and then copy from redundancy. So it's kind of like storage whack-a-mole in a weird way.
Well, it's redundancy in triplicate in a sense, and that's what helps secure this data.
Yeah, yeah. So it's 3x redundancy by default. You can, if you want to go in Jackal JS, you can do 10x redundancy, 100x redundancy, or you can do, if you're feeling frisky, you can go 1x redundancy and hope for the best. But yeah, it's really programmable. That's what makes it pretty special, right? Where you have the ability to do whatever you need to do because when you build like a layer like this, which is such a low level, you have to be flexible because you serve a lot of people with a lot of different needs. And for the protocol to work, we have to get a lot of data on the network. So we have to be able to serve golf simulators just as well as we serve the NFT marketplaces, just as
Because
well as we serve social, just as well as we serve other stuff.
because even as a creator, it's like, you can get removed from a platform like at any time. Like I say the wrong thing, there's a glitch, it's just gone. Like
Mm,
missing your files. This actually happened to me with CapCut when TikTok went away, for like the day, it was just like suddenly like it just told me like, hey, we're not going to be functional. And so I got a message in my CapCut that disallowed me from actually accessing the files I was editing.
mm,
So all of that data, which I thought like, oh, is it somewhere like on my computer or something, was literally gone. I could not reach it. That was like one of those like
yeah.
absolutely freaked out, in my mind. So it's like a real thing to be able to have data storage
it,
in this way.
it's kind of a question where like we have such a broad range of people that we provide storage to, And everyone kind of has like these different value propositions and different needs and different problems, right? So when we deal with like the NFT guys or like the decentralized Web3 guys, they want like programmable privacy, permission, self custody, decentralization, all these good things, right?
Hmm.
And then when we go and we sell it to a golf simulator, they don't care about that. They just want like multi-region geo-distributed storage that's like 30x cheaper when you factor in like transfer fees.
Hmm.
So it's kind of interesting trying to serve all these these different
Is
needs
that's
and
why
needs
you
of
guys had
people.
to break it down into separate apps,
Products.
essentially? Yeah, separate
Yeah,
products.
because some guys like they want to pay with credit card. Like they don't want to pay with crypto. They don't want to manage a crypto wallet. So we have to like abstract that into the background when we do like a lot of stuff, depending on who we're serving, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to be like a science experiment. We want to provide value to the marketplace, and to do that, you have to solve problems, right? And you have to really have a deep understanding of what the problems are of each different vertical that we serve.
Each segment. And it
Mm.
sounds like you guys have, looked through the marketplace and understood the marketplace to a very, specific level, having worked, with Filecoin. What makes, I guess, Jackal different from Pinata or some of the more popular, uses that a lot of developers kind of lean on in this
Yeah,
space?
there's kind of levels to Jackal. So there's like the protocol, right? And then there's like the apps, like the like Jackal Pin or Jackal Vault or Jackal Quick Connect will be coming out. The protocol is you'd have to kind of compare that to like an AW, like a Filecoin or an Arweave or a storage or a Saya. And the thing that makes Jackal different primarily is number one, you interface directly with the protocol. So you don't need to like kind of go through a central gateway to use it. It's hot storage, so it's fast. It's kind of what you're used to when you're building web scale applications rather than being a backup. It's proof of work. Right now, it's the only proof of, sorry, Jackal's proof of stake is the only proof of
Yep.
stake storage network, period, right now. It just has speed, it's modular, and it can provide storage to other blockchains. So distribution's a little bit different. But we kind of like the only thing that's similar between us and those guys, we all just do storage, right? But everyone kind of does stuff differently and serve like a different purpose. So Filecoin's great for like cold storage archiving, put data to rest and don't access it.
Hmm.
Super cheap, way cheaper than us. But the thing is that like it only works for cold storage. It can take up to 24 hours to get your files back.
Yep.
Arweave also great for what they do. It's kind of like if
Archiving. Yeah.
archiving storage, but you have to pay forever, right? So it's
Yeah.
like I think like in their economics model, it's like 200 years, and you pay once, but you have to front load that cost, and you have to make sure that you're storing stuff that you want to keep forever. So like if you're building something where you don't actually need this data to stay for very long, that's not really a good use case to use Arweave because you have to front load the cost. So you have to pay like 20K or 50K or whatever it is for like a terabyte of storage. It's a lot of money. Um,
But
so
this episode might be worth it. I'm just gonna say that now. But that's the
yeah,
thing. I think what's great about Jackal is if I wanted to, I could opt for that type of archiving
yeah.
in Jackal.
If you need hot storage or permissions or privacy, then Jackal is the only option.
Mhm.
But if you're looking for like just long-term public files storage, Arweave would be cheaper if you're looking to store for longer than 50 years.
And I think that there's, as you're talking about speed, and I think there was something interesting that I caught, in one of the town halls that
Mm,
the localization of these files helps to bring the speed to bear. I know that Netflix does this thing where it's just like if they think a movie's going to be doing well in a certain area from their data, they're going to place it on their servers so that locally you're going to be able to get it fast.
yeah.
Yeah, does would Jackal get to that point where it could become a sort of a host like that for content or for data in that speed?
Yeah. So for speed, and if you're looking for public file hosting, we have a product called PIN, where it's like Jackal's storage layer to store the files, and then you use IPFS's discovery layer that kind of acts as a CDN on top of it.
Hmm.
So like that is really special because we can piggyback off of the standards that IPFS makes. A lot of people get confused about like IPFS, like, oh, I store it in an IPFS. This is like a common thing where IPFS isn't a storage layer, it's a discovery layer. It's a way that you index files. So you index by content instead of location. And then like the closest machine that's indexing that file will serve it to you. Awesome, awesome, awesome stuff. But you still need to store it somewhere, right? So by combining the two, then you get like really, really fast. Jackal's still hot storage at the storage layer, but like by adding like IPFS that kind of acts as a CDN on top of it, it gets like blazing fast. And the more that you call a file, the faster it gets to download.
Exactly. Fascinating. I noticed also in your business model, as I've been following through the years, you guys
Yeah.
partnered up with a creator. And to me, this has been like one of the best marriages, I think, in this space because I think you guys are approaching the marketing in a very, very interesting way. I think a lot of, companies are just like, or projects are like, oh, we want to be like the big hitter. So let's make it
Mhm.
look like AWS. Let's make it look like Microsoft.
Mhm.
But you guys are giving a bit of creative space, for somebody to create alongside. How did you guys discover this idea of working with this creator, and how much sort of free play do you give creatively?
Oh, to Ian, or
Yeah.
as formerly known as Coney Daddy. Ian's great. Ian is like a jack of all trades. He's helped us on multiple, like, people see him as a creator that like creates video content. He's a great at doing that. All of our ads, all that stuff. And he's awesome. But like behind the scenes, he's also like doing a lot of like UX design work, which is
Wow.
pretty interesting. He's a very talented individual. Um, when we look to like kind of our marketing in the early days, like our branding, our marketing, our content just like sucked. Like it was hilariously bad. Like I
Appreciate the
was
honesty. We're here for the honesty. We're here for the realness.
it's when we sent, like, someone would be like, oh, like, send me the info on Jackal. Like I would like hesitate when sending that message like to the website and stuff like that. It was like bad. But we're just a bunch of engineers, right? So by bringing him on, like, we knew that we needed to kind of solidify that aspect of the business, and bringing someone on where we wanted to kind of be authentic. We wanted to go direct, and we wanted to kind of just be ourselves because no one can really beat us at being ourselves, if that makes sense.
Yep.
We thought that was just a good approach, and like kind of going creator route. It's a lot cheaper than like paid acquisition. We can build community better. We can People can understand us for who we are. Like we're not a faceless product, like a project. Like you know who's who in the zoo here. So it's kind of nice to kind of have that authenticity, and that's really deep with our branding. It's kind of like like if we were to put a word on it, it's kind of like a relaxed rebel almost, where it is. That's kind of how we approach things, and we try to do everything in that style of us, which is
It
pretty
takes it
special.
takes time though, and I think I commend you guys for like going this route because a you are going to save money. Let's be honest. Like this way of sort of marketing, you're going to save money, but you're also going to be contributing a lot of time to creating
Yeah.
these resources, to doing the sit downs. How do you balance that?
Well, we hire to balance that, right? So like it's we can't take like the sales process and then the actual building of products, new products, and solidifying the protocol and getting it stable can't be hindered by our also need to do marketing. Like all these things have to work in perfect harmony. You have to get like 10 things perfectly right for one thing to work, and grabbing and hiring those like A plus players. I'd rather have a team of like 10 A plus players than like a team of 100 people that are kind of just a little bit good at something. So we go for specialists when we do our hiring, and he's been a great addition for that kind of stuff.
When it comes to that level of creation, again, some you want to seem like professional. You want to seem all these sort of almost elevated
Mm,
sensibilities. But I notice you guys give a lot of creative sort of slack
freedom.
to freedom. I guess is that a trust in sort of him and through the relationship, or is that something like let's get crazy, let's really fuck shit up?
I think it has to do with trust. I also have to think it's kind of like the shift that we're seeing culturally, whether it's in Silicon Valley, up here in Canada, wherever we might be, where you can kind of just go direct and be free and just kind of be honest and true to who you are, and get a little bit more creative. Where like we have platforms where we can just talk directly to our users and just be ourselves. You see this is like starting to become more popular. You see Facebook starting to pivot. You see X and Twitter and Elon and those guys. You even see like companies like Ramp, for example, which is just like a kind of account management stuff for businesses. And this is kind of a shift that we're seeing in traditional markets, so we might as well do it here as well because we think that it's a lot more fun, it's a lot more enjoyable, and I don't want to take a message and throw like sand in the engine of our company by like having like 50 people go through and just like refine it and then filter everything and all that stuff. We think it's a little bit ridiculous.
In this world of I keep hearing the utility and depend, this call to back to the fundamentals, away from the meme coin
Mm.
narrative at the moment. Is this sort of the heat that you're ready for? Have you guys sort of I guess partnered with the right people in this space? Because as a depend, I feel like, you know, you have to kind of maybe find partners or sort of connect to the ecosystem, right?
Um, I think that how do I put this properly? DPIN is run by fundamental business practice, right? Buy pressure comes from actual sales. Buy pressure comes from revenue of the protocol, right? We don't do stuff like, oh, like what's the GDP of this L1 going to be like 10 years in the future? That's not really what we do in DPIN. I look at DPIN in a unique light where let's compare it to traditional markets, right? If you look at like an NFT marketplace or a DEX, that's kind of like a Snapchat level of complexity, right? Like Snapchat's awesome. It makes a lot of money. You get to market quickly, and then you get revenue very quickly. Depin's a little bit different, right? These are like very, very, very complex systems where you have a physical component. You have to get like 10 things right for it to work. And they're kind of more similar to like kind of like a biotech or like a SpaceX when it comes to complexity of these things. And I think that they're kind of in that category for this industry. Um, it takes a long time to build these things, a lot of delayed satisfaction in building these things. And then when you get to market, you're actually judged by the revenue that the thing brings in, right? Because it's very, very simple. The beautiful thing about DeepIn, though, is let's say that I want to say, oh, I want to go against AWS. Hey, venture capitalists, I need to build like 10 data centers, $1 billion a piece minimum. Will you give me money to do this? They'll probably say no, because that's a dumb thing for them to actually invest in if I'm actually building out the infrastructure myself. Deepen and crypto and the ability to use tokens to bootstrap capital expenditure and automate operational expenditure into the protocol directly is very, very powerful and very, very special. It gives you the ability to jump modes, um, where now you can get to market, you can build a thing, you can bootstrap everything by borrowing from the future to pay for the present, to have something to provide to the marketplace and sell. It's very, very, very special stuff. And I'm excited about what DPIN is in general. I'm excited about that we can kind of go back to the creative destruction. DPIN projects take a long time to build, but they fail really quickly, right? When you look at kind of like traditional L1s or a lot of these dexes, they feel very slow because they're not actually judged by the revenue that they bring in. They can kind of just exist for a long time, just based on like the way that the market treats them, right? DPINs don't trade; they're not trading very high relative to like L1 comparables, even though they are L1s.
Mm.
So it's I think it's kind of like a return to consolidation. It's a return to like sound metrics, and it's a return to, does this provide value? And if not, that's what happens, right? Like you're
Actual business fundamentals.
no,
You heard it here first here of
yeah.
Web3. You know, it's
Yeah,
crazy to
well,
think.
like Jackal is very, very simple, and a lot of these depends are simple. The more storage that we sell, the more buy pressure we have on the token, because we have to pay the storage providers, we have to pay the validators, and the users get their percent, and a percentage gets sent to protocol owned liquidity. So it's very clear where the buy pressure is coming from. If it doesn't sell, token don't go up, right? If it does sell, then you have natural fundamentals that is actually driving revenue from this thing, right? It's very,
And
very
other than
simple.
token value, though, I think what's curious about DPEN is you have the token value, but you also have the ability to get involved in different ways. And certainly, you
Mm,
know, from like, you know, the helium standpoint, all you had to do is get like this, you know, this miner, you like put it
yeah.
up there, and like, you know, you can provide, you know, Wi-Fi service for somebody coming into your zone, even though 900 people are in your zone. But here, do you guys, in your vision of this, is this something that you guys are looking at, of just like, you know, having, you know, people like me just wanting to get involved? How can I get involved with Jackal?
It's a good question. So when we look at like people to get involved, it kind of depends from deep end to deep end, right? If you're demo, you take a thing, you put it in the car, and you drive, because you're just like spitting off data like you're spitting off exhaust, right? For a cash, for us, it's a little bit more complicated than that, right? Like you have to be pretty technical to run these things, which we don't want to have like a bunch of people all around the world that aren't very technical, that are running storage providers and providing like that capacity to our protocol, because the worse that they are, the worse the product is,
Hmm.
right? So a lot of our guys is either data centers that have idle capacity, or like system administrators at night in their basement that turn their house into a data center. um, but to get involved at the community level, that's a little bit different, right? If you have projects that are building, like if they're doing NFTs, socials, decentralized science, decentralized AI, helping us with the sales process is like the best way to get involved, where you can connect us with projects that you're interested in, other communities, introduce us to other communities, join our community, try out Jackal Vault, which is kind of like a Dropbox type product where you can kind of upload some files and just see what it's like. But that's kind of how we think about it, on the deep inside of things.
Well, let's dig down a little bit on that, on
Yeah.
that opportunity for somebody who's like, oh, like I'd love to connect them with, the project that I love, and I know they're paying way too much for storage, and
Hmm.
how is it they can connect? And also, I mean, talk about that process because that's, you get a little vig out of that, right? You get a little
Oh
bit
yeah.
out of that.
So Jackal, if you're looking to get other people to use Jackal Vault, which is a consumer product, you'll get 25% kickback, by putting in your Jackal wallet address.
25% vig, that's a big agency fee,
That's
guys.
it. With Jackal Pin, it's a little bit different. Unfortunately, like since we abstract it away, we don't really get the benefit of like kind of having the on-chain nature and all the beautiful things that come with it. But like the best way is if you have someone that's a larger client or another builder or something like that, go direct to us through our Twitter account, Telegram, Discord. We'll answer within like 5 minutes, guaranteed.
Fantastic. Just direct outreach. We can reach out to Patrick Dunlop. He's on Twitter. I'll put his contact details below
Of
there,
course.
and you can connect with him and try and get involved because I think this is a really great project in the space that is reaching this sort of critical mass. You can see like sort of the charts, if you will, of the active users and the active files because I think there's something great happening with the marketing and people understanding the value proposition being made here and the value of as you said, the different types of users and different types of needs for storage, which we all do. And with files growing and growing and data just coming out the ears, this could be really really powerful for a lot of users in a lot of different ways.